Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. This is Appropriations Subcommittee on Economic Development. Y'all move up here if you want to. Y'all want to move up front?
Yeah,
come on back. Come on up this way. Probably help. A lot of you are going to be asking questions too, so you'll need the mic after the presentation. Chris, you need to go first. You got somebody you got to meet? No. Okay. Okay. I just didn't know if you had somebody you need to meet. Okay. Okay, first thing, we're going to go ahead and call the roll here, and that's Mike 86. Right?
Yeah. Chairman Rogers.
Present.
Ellis Black. Steve Davis.
Present.
Carl Van Alps.
Present.
Jay Roberts.
Present.
Tommy Smith. Calvin Smyrie.
Okay. Got it. Very good. Thank you. DOT, y'all want to go first? You got something on your mind, Mr. Commissioner? Is that on? Try it now. I don't know which one that is. That 90? Try it now. Which one is it?
How about 9? How about 9? Oh.
Check mics. Over there and do it. I can do that. All right, we just. Oh, can you hear me talking like this? I can hear you. Can everybody else hear it? Okay.
It's online.
Okay. Also, Commissioner, so if you just want to briefly go over it, it'd be fine. We'll try to rush everybody through.
Okay. Obviously, the biggest, in FY11, the biggest change is the reconciliation, I guess, we had to make in the books was last year the projection of
Okay. You mentioned that the cut on the airport will not affect federal funds?
no, it wouldn't affect federal funds, it would affect contracts that are going on right now. Ms. Carol Coleman that does the aviation would affect contracts, not the amount of drawdown of federal dollars.
Okay. Okay. All right, let me see if I can
I've tried.
All right, Mr. Commissioner, neighbor from West Georgia, how you doing? How many employees do you currently have as compared to, say, a couple of years ago?
And I'm gonna give you kind of a stair step here. In 2009, we had 5,331 employees. We had positions of 5,800 plus a few, a little bit over 5,800 positions. Those positions have been reduced to 4,975 positions, and current employees, as of our past board meeting, we had 4,784 employees as of the last January board.
And a follow-up question to the chairman's question concerning the contract funds for project administration. How does that explain that?
Well, it's $634,000 in the airport category of contract administration. It would mean we'd have to delay, if it's reduced 300 or whatever it's reduced, we'd have to delay that till after July 1 and try to pick it up after July. It doesn't have to do with the federal drawdown. 95% of aviation, 95% federal, 2.5% state, and 2.5% local. It doesn't have any effect on that. It's just administration.
Okay.
Chairman Roberts.
Is it on? Okay. Let me ask you something, though. Going along those same lines, is it not my understanding that if the $300,000 was reinstated into this budget, that the amount of federal dollars that could be drawn down because of that $300,000 would roughly equate to about $11.1 million?
I think there's two things mixing up right there, and I may let Kate explain exactly, Kate Furman, the treasurer, but it's kind of two different categories we got going on. Let me let Kate explain it, if that's all right, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
That's correct. If we had $300,000, if $300,000 was to be restored to our budget for use in federally eligible projects at airports around the state, we would draw about $11.4 million in federal funds. This reduction, again, in contract administration, it's a required activity for the federal program, but we do not get federal funds for it. So the way we'll manage this $300K reduction is to not fully renew the full, as the commissioner said, $634,000 contract when it comes due in mid-June. We'll renew half of it, and then we'll renew the other part of it in July, since this is a one-time reduction. We can manage one time, but we can't manage ongoing.
But, follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. But, all right, I guess I'm still confused, though. But if we do take this $300,000 out, then we are foregoing the possibility of drawing down $11.1 million.
No, that's not correct, and I'm sorry if I left you with that impression. This $300K that we're talking about here, and it's specified in the documents for contract administration, is not matched by any federal funds whatsoever.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Am I on? 4,975 positions. The governor's budget book lists it at 5,935 for FY11.
That's the positions that we have, and he's asking for those to be reduced to 4,975. I guess it's 12. 47,845.
In employees, but the funded positions you said was 4,975. Is that correct? And is that in the administrative budget, the departmental administrative budget, or is that throughout?
That's all you got.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner, I guess I've got a question for the, your treasurer there. Why do we have, number one, so many bank accounts? Number one. Number two, why are most of them at Columbus Bank and Trust in Columbus? Does the commissioner run the money down there and deposit it when he goes home?
These accounts, the ones that PPT have actually been in business at least since 2004. Now, I will say, I've only been with the department about 2 years, so many of these accounts predate my time. When I went back to look, we actually, back in 2004, we had 28 bank accounts, and now we're back to about 20, so that we have closed the accounts and consolidated those. And I will tell you, there could be further opportunities to do some consolidation, but we can certainly look at that.
Well, as much as you got to deal with, it's got to be confusing at times, but I know you need them segregated for purposes.
Yeah, there are some that you do have to have separate wayside accounts, for example, but there's others where they have some opportunities to do some.
What do you do on that? Do you put an RFP out for that as far
We
as?
actually work with all these banks that have gone through Treasury. Tommy Hill's done the Treasury as well now, and all these accounts have go through that fee program. And so there's criteria of looking at those who charge the fees, the lower fees that actually meet your service needs. So they already have those fees established and do that through their program.
Yeah, that's good. He's good.
All right,
Von Epps.
Representative Carl Van Alps.
Mr. Commissioner, if you can, help the committee to understand what a reduction in state fund would mean to the transit programs in terms of drawing down federal dollars.
Transit program.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to answer that too.
In terms of drawing down federal dollars.
Yes, I know it's going to affect several cities. It's going to affect Augusta, Cobb County, Columbus, Gwinnett County, Martin, and Savannah. It's that urban transit system that we help fund, and reduction in transit automatically affects those areas in those urban transit systems. I'll give you an example. Cobb County, about 8.1 million, Columbus, 2.1, and that lapses on the 30th of this year, 9/30-11, Columbus will lapse. So that'd be the one that really affects the most, but it will affect those also.
Okay, any other questions from anybody? Okay, Todd, you want to say anything? If you have questions. Gerald, is Gerald here, or is he hiding? Oh, I see him over there now. Okay, you want to say anything while you're here? Okay, thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Let's see here, how about forestry next, since they gotta get back to Macon and raining, there shouldn't be any fires going on, we hope, so.
Since all the firemen were here.
Well, forestry, they're out in the field. Gotta pay your dues, Chris. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, the committee, if you'd like. I'll just provide a very high overview.
Okay.
Reduction proposal for FY11A. In a nutshell, we're looking at a 31% reduction since the start of FY9, totaling 43% reduction in terms of wood dollars. Since last year, there's seven of them planned for FY11. Our plans propose to cut 29 fire engines out of our fleet and cut 21 firefighting crawler tractors out of our fleet. In a nutshell, that's our proposal.
Commissioner, on the FCC licensing, who was it that alerted you on this? And you said just 2.5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago you found out?
2 weeks ago, our CFO and IT person met with GTA advisors. There's a brief overview of those requirements. Of course, we've talked over the past 2 years about having to meet the equipment needs.
Is this equipment or just a license fee?
Well, in the past 2 years, we've been working on equipment, changing over our equipment to make it compliant from everything. And then, as I said 2 weeks ago, if you'll turn on the very back page, there's a piece that contains new and modified licenses. On the back page of the last page, and that's what we're referring to. License our 203 base radios. We're projecting the cost of $217,000. Other agencies, organizations can have to meet these same requirements. The big difference is we have a lot more base radios and frequencies than all the other state agencies.
But I know we've done this with the State Patrol. Who else have we done this for? We've done it with the State Patrol can communicate with the Public Safety, DNR.
Yes, sir.
So it requires y'all to have a separate license than what they have?
Yes, sir. We have to license each radio frequency.
Okay.
And of course, we share some frequencies with DNR and State Patrol and our other public safety agencies. But we have to license each base radio.
Okay. And how often do you have to do this?
I'm not sure how often we have to renew, you know, Dan?
The license are current for a long time. This narrowbanding requirement was due January 1st, 2013. That's what's requiring this relicensing. So if it wasn't for this new FCC license, we wouldn't have to be doing it.
Okay. Yes, sir. Number 86.
Yeah. Well, you've taken a number of cuts, reductions in your budget, but on administration, talk a little bit about the effect of the operations for the cut of the administration of that $115,000 and elimination of five positions.
Well, what we're doing with those reductions is rather than asking our folks to wear 2 hats, we're asking them to wear 3 and 4. The two most critical positions of those 5 are GIS statewide coordinator, works on maps and data for us, coordinates that, and we've lifted that position and are asking 3 of our foresters across the state to work together to serve the entire state of GIS activities. Also, we're cutting the county clerk position there and the training staff, which obviously can have an impact on the rest.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody? What are you?
87.
87. There you go.
Mr. Commissioner, can you tell me where we're at? I know at one point we started putting some money back in for these Enviro cabs and all. Can you tell me where we're at as far as the equipment and how we've progressed from that point?
Yes, sir. We have 344 crawler tractors across the state. And to date, we've replaced 73 of those crawlers with the environmental cabs. And with the reductions that I mentioned earlier, reducing our crawler firefighter fleet by 21, that puts us close to 25%, 25% level. Average averaging 10 crawlers a year. It will take us quite a few years to get all of our equipment over and outfitted with environmental caps.
Okay.
Okay, Representative Black, let me,
I'm at 88.
hold on 1 minute.
I recall back earlier, you talked about that we're eliminating the production of these front-mounted pumping units.
Front mount pumpers, yes, sir.
And did I misunderstand that these were not available through other sources or something for the local volunteer fire departments and units that
No, sir, they can be made fire.
that can be custom built?
Yes, sir. In our move with our reductions in our rural fire defense program, over the past couple of years, we've lost expertise from electronics and pump management standpoint. And working on these newer trucks, which were what we use for front mount pumpers. Basically, we've lost 4 positions in our rural fire defense program and do not have the resources or the expertise on hand right now to build front mount pumpers. And we focused our activities on what's called a fire knocker. It's a simpler piece of equipment. And the advantage to the Forestry Commission and wildland fires is that those fire knockers can pump and roll. In other words, they can get on a big hayfield that's burning and pump water as they're circling the field. The front mount pumpers can't do that.
So these local fire departments are going to have you said, a better piece of equipment available to them rather than those front-mounted pumpers?
It depends on how you define better. It serves our purposes for wildland fire control better than the fire knocker does. The front mount pumper, the fire departments really prefer those because they help drop their ISO rating. They're a bigger, more valuable piece of equipment that are more suited towards structural fire protection.
Is this going to end up costing our local volunteer fire departments more money and local counties more money?
Yes, sir, to procure front mount pumpers.
One other question then. You got an elimination of 4 positions here in the forest protection program. Which of these positions are going to be eliminated, and what part of it's district reorganization, and how is this going to affect the overall operation?
Okay, from the district reorganization, we've eliminated 3 senior managers, going from 12 to 10 to 6 districts, and associate district managers. And then on the protection end for FY11, the positions that we're looking at, that are proposed, are our communications person, which is in charge of our fire prevention efforts. Also, an RFD position, a chief ranger in Early County, chief ranger in Decatur County, and then also our Helping Hands coordinator, which works again with rural fire departments providing personal protective equipment.
Thank you.
Chairman Roberts, do you have a question for him?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the forestry? Okay. Thank you for being here. Okay. I tell you what, from now on, why don't we just use the desk mics y'all have in front of you, because we are streaming this on the internet, and since that mic's not working.
See them better.
Leader O'Neill, you want to move up here where you can ask any questions that you have on your mind? Yeah, come on up here. All right, Chris Kaminsky in Economic Development and John Moffitt. I'm going to turn both of your mics on at the same time. So.
No worse than we can hear you.
Hit the red button.
20 and 20.
I can do one at a time. What are you on, Chris? Wait a minute. I got you now. Now shoot. What? Wrong one.
Test. I got it.
I got a backseat driver.
Not with you here. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. Our FY11 budget has not changed significantly much. It's really two areas, both in marketing money. We reduced our global commerce budget in marketing by $550,000 and our tourism marketing by $550,000 as well. And they were the really only two substantive changes to the FY11 budget.
Question from, what's your number?
87.
87?
Yeah.
Okay. Chairman Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We talked about earlier in the other budget hearings about the loss of the film tax credit. And at that time, y'all were working. Have y'all been able to come up with any numbers yet as to the local impact on the local communities?
The study is not back yet. We expect it either by the end of next week or the week following, but once I get it, I will make sure you have it, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Hanner.
Commissioner, let me ask you something. With that $547,000 reduction in marketing funds in tourism,
Yes, sir.
would you, how is that going to affect you? And would you provide us with a list of projects that will have to be canceled?
I can give you just a general list, and I can go into more detail after this meeting's over.
Okay.
But the ones we're looking at in tourism are, it's a decrease in our international sales. We'll not hire a contractor. It's decreasing administration and training and supplies and promotional items, some online advertising, general advertising, which is a large part of it, and then our public relation firms we have cut down as well. But I'll get you a more detailed version, or John will.
Also, the funds in the business recruitment and expansion.
Okay, I will do that. Fairly same situation. Advertising, interactive advertising, and public relations. But I'll get you more details, sir.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else? All right, Chairman Davis.
Thank you. Commissioner, last year I asked a question about this in dealing with advertising.
Okay.
And utilizing your department to try and maybe consolidate some of the advertising from other departments and agencies. Has anyone, discussed that or tried to coalesce that at all to where we can maybe overall as a budget in general, we can centralize some advertising for all the agencies?
It's a good question. I wasn't here last year, but I'm going to hand over to John, see if he knows.
Yes, sir. A lot of agencies have actually piggybacked on our existing advertising contracts, so they're using the same firm that we are, but as far as getting together a pool of marketing funds or something like that for us to advertise, say, for forestry or agriculture, that's not being done. But other agencies have used the actual contracts that we have in place for public relations and advertising, and they're using the same firms.
Last year, I kept a box in my office, and I kept all the magazines and handouts and printouts and advertising stuff that I got from all the different departments. I kind of called it my own little retirement fund on what we're doing. And I wonder if there's some way we can try and coordinate that or put out some kind of directive that maybe we can, save some advertising dollars across the board.
Currently, what we have in place now is a tourism foundation, and what we're doing with the tourism foundation, some of the entities around the state, like Sam Shortline and some of the halls of fame that used to be in place, and DNR and things like that, we're trying to commingle some of the advertising money and go in like a cooperative type thing and get, ads where, say, forestry, for example, just use them because they're right in front of me. So they would maybe buy a quarter page ad or something like that, and someone else, agriculture, may beg it a half page. We would get all of us together. We may buy a 3-page ad. We get better discounts. We get more volume and things like that. So we're currently working on that now. And actually, if you'd like, when I get back to the office, I can get some of those numbers and get them to you on some of the. We've made some buys already, and how we've saved some money on that with some agencies already.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for economic development from anybody? Okay, thank y'all for being here.
Thank you all.
Okay, why don't we have Jifa go ahead and go next, so. And you're on mic, what? 1, 2, 3, okay. Hit that red button, you should be good to go.
Is that working?
Has it?
Oh, okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the FY11 budget, we have $286,358 for Georgia Rural Water, and there have been no proposed cuts to that, so we proposed that that would stay in, and we would pass that on through to Georgia Rural Water.
Okay. Any questions for him? Anybody? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This once again, our 11 amended constitute an 8.1. If approved, is the total reductions for 11 is 11.3. We get there primarily through personnel cuts or unfilling the vacancies and the like. We pretty much got there in the last 3 or 4 years by not filling vacancies. That's pretty much going to come to an end. We've got significant retirements happening this year and next. Really the core of our electric staff. We'll have to start filling some of those positions. So we can meet the 11 amended, but we're pretty much at the end of the rope without really sacrificing significant service and job performance.
Anybody? Okay. Chairman Davis here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Wise, on the positions that you were just discussing, is it 17 positions, 19?
Filled at this point, yes.
19, okay. For some reason, I had 19 in my notes. Are any of those critical hires? I mean, I know you guys deal with some sensitive issues, and how's that going to impact?
Right now, we're okay. If we haven't attempted to fill a position, we're comfortable that we can live with that cut to this point. As we go into 12, we're saying we can make the 11. We can do what's been asked of us so far. But at some point, we're going to start to lose some of our 32, 33-year-old real heart and soul of our electric staff, and we're going to have to fill those positions. We don't know if we can meet job performance in subsequent budgets if we go any farther than the current cuts and vacancies that we have.
Right, so are all of those unfilled positions right now? Or
The 17? Yes, sir.
So they're all unfilled. Could I ask on another topic? I was wondering about the subject matter experts and the rate cases that are involved in that, and what are we doing there, and how much are we expending in that?
That is, in rate case years, that is a significant expenditure. It was in last year's budget. We've gotten through that. We had 3 significant rate cases and a fuel case. The end of 11, start of 12 is not going to be as serious as it's been. Our consultants are really one of the ways that we can do and meet job performance in any given year with the experts that the utilities bring to the table, and we couldn't do it without those consultants. So that's a real partnership that the consultants that our staff recommends, hires, works hand in hand on any of these utility cases that we have. So consultant funding is important, but not something that, again, that we're making any additional requests for in 11.
And what about 12?
12 will come, and it won't be as significant as 11, just because we're not going to have 3 major rate cases. We will have a fuel case in 12. So it's not going to be the same number that you saw in the first part of 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I know you mentioned, 4 rate cases y'all had this past year?
3 rate cases and a fuel case.
Fuel case. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But right now, you don't have anything going on till after July 1st?
We'll have a fuel case later this spring.
Okay. the House Bill 1233 was passed. How has it played out so far? How does the utility reimburse you on all this?
It comes to the Treasury, and,
okay.
and y'all still have shot at it. It comes through appropriations. You're aware of the numbers, but it is a funding. We call it cost causer. So they have to help pay for what we do to them.
So they hire their expertise, and you hire your expertise.
And they get to pay for both of them. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think based on an average I had, you're expending, what, about $550,000 a year on rate cases on expertise?
Yes, sir.
So, you have a cap of, what, $600,000 in House Bill 1233?
I don't know what the cap, I think you're close to right.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But that was significant legislation. It was the right thing to do, and once again, the commission appreciates that legislation. Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner Everett, you're back there. You want to say anything since you're here, former member of the House?
Very nice to
Okay.
He's just making sure I don't screw up, Mr.
I
Chairman.
thought I saw him go to sleep. I wasn't sure. Did you go to sleep?
You did.
Okay. Just checking. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Who wants to go next? Gary, you want to go next? That'd be fine. Your number, what are you, 13? Wait a minute. Now go.
That's good. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good to be with you today. We've got start off with some good news. We all need good news. We hope to continue to bring you good news. Last week we discussed our Farmers and Consumers Market Bulletin business plan. That's beginning to show its fruit. With our notice from last week, we're yielding somewhere around 350 renewals a day. That's been a little infusion into the system to help meet the goal that you set for us. We do have a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue to do that to press towards keeping this publication available to the citizens of Georgia. I want to, from a budget standpoint too, real proud of our team from our administrative standpoint. Our new way of managing at the department with our chief administrative officer, and our desire to push decisions down and accountability to go along with that with our managers across the department. Our Chief Administrative Officer, Dr. James Sutton, is tomorrow, I believe it's tomorrow, is our next, or Thursday. It's this week. It's this week our second round of Budget 101 classes for our managers, because I think it's important for people who actually have divisions that they be held accountable for their budget too. And so that's in somewhat a new concept that we're introducing, but I think it's important, and it's going to yield good teamwork, but better management for us as a department. In early December, I asked the Department of Administrative Services to review the department's purchases. We'd begun to look at the books and discover a number of things that that we had quite a number of questions about. That report is due to us the third week of February, and as we move into 12 and some discussions, I promise you I'm going to be keeping leadership and this committee abreast of some of those discoveries that we have in our practices, because I can promise you we're going to improve them and make sure that we've also discovered with the Department of Administrative Services there are a lot of services over there that we could utilize to help us be a better department with regards to our purchasing training and well, just a wide range of things, even managing workers' comp insurance that we heretofore have not taken advantage of, but we're making sure that we avail ourselves of those services once again so that we can be an exceptional department for the citizens of Georgia. I have spoken also with Mr. Russell Hinton, our state auditor. We've been in discussion several times during the transition. But in particular, I want to bring the committee and make you aware of one of our farmers market issues is we handle a lot of cash with gate fees, with cash rentals. And the one thing that I am committing to this committee, and as we move forward, we're going to have some better accounting practices of just how we check up with our employees, and because and that's not to say that there's anything wrong. I'm just disturbed. I want us to have better practices, and the state auditor is going to help with this. I've asked him for a state audit of the whole books so that I can finally get a number to know where my number starts, because that number is going to be square, and it's going to be square in the future. But that's not to imply anything. It's just simply to say that that's good business, and those are the practices that we're putting into practice. I appreciate Commissioner Kaminsky's discussion a while ago about advertising. We have some of that. We'd love to cooperate, and I think there's some ways that we can. We're meeting with the folks that we've done advertising with this week, primarily because we didn't pay the bill this month. I want an explanation. And now they're coming to see us, so that's a good thing. We've had some good help in that area, and I don't suggest there's been anything bad there, but we want to do a better job. I want to give you the committee a real quick update, because it does impact what you've done in the past, not necessarily 11, but our Tifton Seed Lab, we've had another strategy meeting on that today. Y'all funded that at $24 million and some change down in Representative Roberts and close to Representative Black's district. This is going to be a wonderful facility that's going to help us decentralize state government again and get some of the things out of Atlanta down to Tifton. I am concerned that maybe we've not done as much planning with regards to the cost of operation and staffing that should have been done before we started laying bricks. But we're on that, and we had a good strategy session this morning, and we're squeezing every nickel. I am glad to report to you that we are under budget. You don't hear that often, but I've been on that in the last few weeks, just making sure, either from laboratory equipment to completing the landscaping. We're going to involve the urban agriculture industry, and hopefully we're going to have a lot of friends that want to help us landscape this place with the various kinds of sod that we grow in Georgia and the drought-tolerant plants, and having a good drought management strategy on irrigation and those kind of things that will be a good example for folks. The last thing about that, and Mr. Chairman, I'll entertain any questions y'all have. One of the savings that we hope to bring forward is that we have a woefully, many of us, y'all have heard me talk about technology quite a bit with this department, and we have a long way to go. But with just our IT infrastructure that we currently have, we've been duct taping, baling, and twining, and for way too long. It's an expensive proposition to change what we have here and move somewhere, or to try to revamp what we have to have it in Atlanta. Yet, through your vision and the way we've planned for the Seed Lab, we have a server room and the capabilities there. So what we're going to do, our plan right now is to move the primary IT service to Tifton. That's going to be another job or two for y'all down there, Mr. Roberts. But and then let Atlanta be the redundancy, because we can fix our redundancy more easily here and make that our primary IT function and actually get it out of Atlanta too. We're working on the whether it's fiber optics or T3 and all that. Again, that was part of our discussion today. But I really believe, just from an infrastructure standpoint, we're going to realize some savings out of that. So we're squeezing, rubbing nickels together and trying to get some best practices engaged. We hope we'll make you proud, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Representative Hanner has a question for you.
Let me ask you something, Commissioner. The reductions in the poultry veterinary and diagnostic labs in Tifton and in Athens.
Yes, sir.
What will the effect of that reduction be?
Well, I did have a good meeting with those folks last week, and they're just like anybody else. It's going to put us in I think they're in a situation where they could. They had planned for 4, but they got 6, if I recall. If you look at those numbers, I think that's where we are. It's going to, if we don't have the resources, you won't be able to perform the services. I think they're probably, they're not as hurting as bad for 11 to finishing out this year, but carrying forward that extra 2% is going to be a challenge for 12, candidly.
I got one more.
They've already increased fees too, so I suppose that we could look at supplementing that one more time, but because there are some, for instance, if you want to do necropsy on a bull that you bring in there, I think we're not at $100 yet, but when we raised the fees, we doubled or tripled them, and so. Could we go from $60 to $100? Yeah, we could probably do that, but how much money really is that? So that's the dilemma we're in.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. Is it true that your department's going to give up some of its office space to another agency?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
You're not aware of that? Where?
I was told that. Where the governor's transition office was?
Yeah, but we were not in that space anyway.
Oh, really?
I think that belongs to GBA. That's not our space, and we're not paying the rent on it.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. What are you, Alice?
Okay. Mr. Commissioner, we got $819,000 here, reduction in operating expenses and consumer protection. How about get you to comment on how that's going to impact that program?
Okay. Representative, what we're into is a situation in this budget is with, as I understand, program budgeting. That's where the cut shows up. It's not going to affect service because between it's consumer protection and what's the other one, Sherry? Those are the two. Both of those, from a individual program standpoint, have been out of whack for a couple of years. Now, when you get to the bottom line balances, which is fine, but this is a program budgeting issue that, quite frankly, I'm going to have to get my teeth into and fix it. I think it's a we've got some things in the wrong in the wrong columns, and maybe we haven't been managing those dollars as close. The bottom line is to the taxpayer at the end of the day, we're fine. But it's just the way we don't need to, I'm going to run a Department of Agriculture. When you look at OPB and look at your budget, we're not out of compliance from a program budgeting standpoint.
One other question, if you please. I understand what the department is leasing approximately 58 vehicles. How are you going to evaluate that program and compare it with the
Looking at costs right now. Now, the one thing that we have discovered is we were sold one bill of goods, or one proposal was offered to us, yet we were sold another one because there's a differences in the cars and the size of cars and what's available, and therefore there's some differences in the costs. We're evaluating that. Our figures today that Dr. Sutton has shown us is we're showing some savings thus far, but we're not all the way into the, we're not all the way in. We're into a 3-year deal, and we're not even, a year into it. But, we want to do it the most efficient way, absolutely. But I think there was the scenario that we were shown that the decisions were made on were on Ford Focuses. And yet, at the end of the day, we have Ford Fusions and F-150s and something else. So, if you kind of put that in the pecking order, the Focus is the lowest one. So,
I just have concerns about making sure we're looking at the whole picture here. A few years ago, we cut back on some vehicles and then turned around and had to pay employees mileage on their personal vehicle.
Yes, sir. Well, and it's been I don't want to quantify this for you because I don't know the individual situations, but I know there's been a policy over time where we do have some employees that have been we were to provide them a car, but they turned it down. And so now we have a number of employees whose travel budgets rival their salaries. Of course, they're only making $24,000, you know. So I mean, that's a whole nother issue we don't need to get to today. But that's a big challenge. And but I want us to be sure we are discovering our chief operating officer, Billy Skaggs, and Dr. Sutton and I. We're visiting people in the field. We're going to our district offices. We're going to the market. We're finding some parked vehicles. We're asking the questions: are these in surplus or not? We have just charged today, not because you were going to ask, but it just happened in staff meeting this morning. I charged to go to all division directors and make sure we have a system for all VIN numbers and everything, and make sure we have an accurate inventory. I feel pretty good about where we are, but Chairman Bullock asked me some questions this morning that we wanted to be very firm about, but I want to make sure our internal controls, all that, are at the touch of a finger.
That's all.
Commissioner, before you were elected, there was a fee bill last year, and I think a fax went out from the department on all the oil jobbers based on each pump they had.
Yeah.
Where are we on that? Was that initiated by the former commissioner, or was that put on hold? I never heard any more about it after I was made aware of it. A lot of oil jobbers were having minimum to pay, then it ended up being a large sum of money for the fund bill fee bill that we had.
Mr. Chairman, it's hard for me to authenticate the communications that happened from previous administration, but I can tell you, I can give you a report when it comes to the we're doing pretty well on our numbers matching of what we projected versus what's coming in.
So it was initiated by the former commissioner, and the oil jobbers had to pay those pretty large sums of money on a per pump, per hose basis. Are you familiar with that? I know it's not.
Mr. Chairman, I kind of heard about it like you. I don't know that I ever saw the memo, and I don't know what it said, and I don't know who it was from. But we would have had a notification process on all those, wide range of licenses that were affected by House Bill 1055. There would have been a communication go to all of those affected parties. I don't know if the oil jobbers letter was any different than a seed store, but they were notified that. Now there was, what I've been trying to communicate to we'll be sure that this is not because of the hateful things that the legislature made us do. This is the alternative funding mechanism that we have for the services of the department, and that's the way we're communicating it.
Well, I know I got several calls about it and got a copy of the facts from the department and what they were initiated by rule and reg, but I never heard any further if they actually went through or if it was stalled. It'd be nice to know. The leader may know right here, but are you familiar with it, Mr. Leader? I'm not either. So.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I will commit to you this. We're making progress.
Okay.
When we get this market bulletin online, as far as subscriptions, it will be the first credit card app of this department. Okay. And I hope by the end of this week we'll be live with that. If it is, then we're going to move rapidly to this online licensing for the wide range of people we serve, because I am absolutely convinced there's some tremendous savings that we can recognize there, and not it's savings. Yes, savings to the taxpayer money, but it's also better service to the people, so we can do what we're supposed to do, and then get out of their life and let them go employ Georgians. That's the way I want us to operate.
So let me ask you this, changing the subject a little bit. You're not going to have a deputy commissioner, I assume?
No, sir.
Okay, so you're just going to have a COO and a chief administrative officer?
That's correct.
Okay. Just looking at your schematic, where are all these people located now? I'm like bonding. You have bonding under the COO. Where are those folks located? Is that dealing with tobacco warehouses, or I don't know?
Time out, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Let's talk about Atlanta versus the rest of the state. In round numbers, about 200 are in Atlanta and about 450 are across the state.
Okay.
Now, when we get back to the new seed lab, we're going to have a transition. The discussion in staff meeting this morning was, or the report on that facility was, what we have now versus what our needs will be in the future. And then I asked them to, the number that I don't know is, what is the transition number?
Right.
How many of those folks are going to move from Atlanta to Tifton, and then how many vacancies will that we will be able to fill? But other than that's y'all help me. If I remember, it was like 25 that are engaged in that activity in Atlanta. So that'll be another, 20 some odd jobs that won't be in Atlanta anymore. They'll be in Tifton.
The 38 people you have at the Atlanta Farmers Market.
Yes.
What
it winds up being is that's a district hub.
Okay.
So you have some inspectors that work out of there. I will tell you that the maintenance department, we've encountered some significant challenges in that arena that I'd be happy to discuss with any member. But we've had some reductions there here recently, and we do have a need for a maintenance staff, but we're not going to be replace it to the level that it was. We're going to get a little higher skilled and better trained and more professional group of folks helping us there.
Okay. Okay. Representative Hanner.
I appreciate your decentralization of state government. Have you considered moving your office to Tifton or to Parrott or somewhere down in South Georgia?
You have a wonderful downtown area in Parrott. I will agree with that, Mr.
We'll make space for you if you come.
Okay. Any other questions? You mentioned information technology. I guess you're not part of the Georgia Technology Authority, but you got 9 people in IT, correct?
No, we are, but then we still have. Mr. Chairman, I'd love to talk with you about that relationship. We're learning the way that they operate, and I'm sure that and I probably just have a lot more I need to learn about that. But
I see. Yeah.
We did find a piece of equipment that's not on their state list today, but for us to be able to make the transfer, and I instructed my folks to move post haste to get that bid out because I'm not going to wait.
You have to wait on the Georgia Technology Authority. Is that what you're saying?
There would have been a little more. All I know is this: that what we need for us to be able to do our transfer of that piece of equipment, as I understood today, was not on the state's list. Okay. And so, rather than us have to wait on some other folks to do that, I instructed my folks to bid that out because we got a building to occupy and try to get us turned around.
Okay. I don't see any other questions.
Very kind. Thank you.
Let's see, who's next? Mike, you're ready to go?
So,
Should be.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Department of Community Affairs.
Members of the committee, it's a great time to be in leadership and to be in government. Lots of opportunities, and I look at the role that DCA plays, and I think as Chris was here a while ago talking about Department of Economic Development, if y'all would look on page 22 and 23 are the pages, and I was listening to our governor earlier today, because what this forces you to do is really get focused on the things you have to do versus all the good things you could do, because there's a lot of good things we've done in the past, I think, all across government that we're probably not going to do. And page 22 and 23, am I on the right? Section 16 on 22 of page 22 of 88, did I?
Page 6 of our tracking.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Apologize. But focus on the things that are important, and the governor made it very clear today that creating jobs in the private sector is a priority. And when I think about our relationship, we're kind of in economic development, we're kind of the fullback of economic development. If the Department of Economic Development is the quarterback, we're the fullback. As you know, with a lot of the deals that are done, we do the underwriting. And we work with very closely. In fact, the Commissioner Kaminsky and I are going to meet probably almost monthly to be sure we're coordinated. And I'm excited about that because we work with the communities to make sure they're ready for the opportunity. And I want to mention just a couple of things. If you've got some questions, we've got material, but I wanted to mention some things. You know, in 11, there was a small cut in REBA, but it was important that was increased the year before, and we're monitoring that, and we're working with the Department of Economic Development to make sure that those funds are available to create jobs. There will be, I think it's a $5 million increase next year, which we feel like is a great opportunity for us to work with the Department of Economic Development to underwrite, you know, those deals and get it done. You'll also notice on the payments to One Georgia Authority, there's almost $20 million there in 11 and 12, and we feel like, once again, we underwrite those deals, we're engaged in that, and we feel like those are some tools. If you really look at it, Mr. Chairman, you know, we work with communities to be sure there's a climate of success for citizens and for businesses to thrive, and we feel like these are some tremendous tools, and we're delighted to be on the team. Now, the Greta, and as you know, the GFA passed through with us. So, and the other, on the first page, I guess it's page 6, Mr. Chairman, is that right? You know, we did merge from 16 regional commissions on 16.2 to 12. We're getting efficiencies there. That's enabling us to do our job better and to really work with the new regional commissions. We'll be having our second statewide regional planning commission meeting that the governor chairs coming up. I think it's February Valentine's Day, whenever that is. And we'll be, once again, all of our, you know, the service delivery regions are lined up there, and there's some great efficiencies there. One of the things I'm really proud of our folks on our state home to match on 16.7, you'll see that we're able to take that $2.6 million and put that back in the Treasury. And because of our bond rating at GHFA, we were able to do some things that would meet that match. Mr. Chairman, that's about $24 million that we received. So most of the other things are things we've been planning on and working on for a while, and we've leaned up and gotten nimble and doing what we have to do. It's an honor to be here with y'all, and look forward to working with you this year and beyond.
How will the operations be affected by the $16,000 reduction in research and surveys?
We have we've really got that covered, Mr. Chairman, and I've also wanted to give you, you know, looking at the different things we do, Mr. Chairman, we've got these listed, and I think as I look through it, a lot of this is more or less transparency in local government. I think the legislature, in their wisdom a few years ago, put this in code so that as we work with local governments, there's some opportunities to look at, you know, local government finances, registered authority finances, the hotel motel tax report, which is really important to be sure that those dollars are used for tourism the way the law is intended. The debt issuance report. So it's kind of a transparency in local government that over the years the legislature has given the DCA, and we've been able to absorb that and kind of get a little leaner in some areas, Mr. Chairman, to make that work. But I'd like to give you all that. If you got those, maybe I've got them. Okay. I'll give you all a copy of that so you can see all the things really under Georgia code that we've been asked to do, and we'll get it done.
Okay.
Representative Carl Van Elk.
Yes, sir. Just got one question, and it's a concern concerning the reduction for personnel services to the tune of $91,000. Can you help me to understand that, how those cuts would be made, and
on the
And what
personnel
impact- yes,
services.
and what impact that would have.
Well, I'll let John talk to that. Some of the things that we had some really good folks to retire, and we were able to offer those positions up. We've kind of leaned up over the years. I think we've gone from 97 to 59, just looked at more efficient ways, and made some pretty tough choices a couple of years ago to get to that point. But Mr. Rep, we've been able to really, combine some offices and divisions and responsibilities and keep the efficiencies there. But John, if you want to.
That 91,000 really came from an analysis OPB had done. They thought there were some additional revenues there, but there really isn't. So what we've done is we're proposing to spread that out over 4 program areas. And we're going to just take, hopefully only in FY11 and 12, take some one-time cuts by deferring expenses, using some one-time federal funds to fill in the gap.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? Any question? Okay. What are you, Ellis?
88.
Yes, sir.
Look younger than that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Commissioner, a couple of years ago when we consolidated these regional commissions, I think everybody anticipated the local folks to have big-time concern over that. And you and I talked at that time, and you promised me that if it stick with you, you'd make this thing work. And we did. And you're to be commended. Of course, I think I went to bat in the local situation on that. But we've got a reduction here of another $171,000 on the money for these.
Yes, sir.
Now we're going to be able to continue to provide it.
We're working very closely. I don't know that we've always done that in the past, but we're working very closely with all 12 of those commissions and been talking to them about it. We didn't have any cuts there the first couple of years. The reality was, we almost had to this year, and it's been very positive, Mr. Chairman. It's been very positive. They know we're going to work with them. We've been giving them more opportunities, and we had a bump of an increase there too, several years ago, and we've worked with them to get back to where we said we needed to be. But it's been very positive. I think they know we've kind of stepped up and took some hits.
I think it's been well received.
Yes, sir. I think so, and we'll just the reality of the times, and we're going to work with them to help make that come back together over time, hopefully.
One other question. In the federal community and economic development program, there's some significant reductions for the money for the down payment assistance loans. And we're just going to be able to do the job with this.
Are you talking about the $2 million reduction?
Right.
Yes, sir. What we're able to do, we're one of only, I think, 9 states that where our housing authority has a AAA bond rating, and therefore we've been able, through those efficiencies and working with some other federal programs, we've been able to meet that match and actually put that money back in the Treasury for better use, and still keep the $24 million a year that we have for our first-time home ownership programs and our low-income housing programs, which are key to all over the state, particularly in rural Georgia. We've actually been able to increase on our first-time home ownership program the incomes, which has really helped with down payment assistance. We're about the only game in town when it comes to down payment assistance right now, so I'm really proud of our folks, and those efficiencies allowed us to for that not to hurt us, and also be able to help, the state with putting that money back in the Treasury. Yes, sir.
Thank
you. Okay, Representative Hill, Chairman Hill.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Commissioner, there's a significant add in there of about $5.7 million to the Greta budget. And please explain exactly what this is going to be needed for in the express bus service.
On the Greta?
On the Greta.
Yes, sir. That's a pass through that I think Greta's here, and I don't think Janine wants me to explain that, but if she'd like for me to, I would. No, Janine, I'm not going to explain that. But Janine would. Mr. Chairman, that kind of passes through. We have a couple of authorities that pass through us administratively, but she'll actually be up here in just a moment to explain that, sir.
That's all right. We'll wait. She'll be next. So. Chairman? 87. Okay. Chief.
Mr. Commissioner, I know that there's been a lot of discussion lately that several of us has had, and I think, can you kind of give a brief overview of the difference in the REBA program versus the One Georgia program? I think there's some confusion out there in where REBA dollars are spent versus where the One Georgia dollars are spent.
Well, and this is part of the strategy of agencies working together, which is really key with the governor's office and with you all to really get focused on that state strategy. REBA traditionally is in the more urban areas, honestly, Mr. Chairman, and it could be anywhere in the state, but more in the urban areas. The One Georgia, the EDGE program, the equity program, Mr. Chairman, more that's in the rural areas, which I believe the designation is 50,000 population county or less in certain poverty. Brian, you help me with that, certain demographics there. Am I right, Brian?
Yes.
Brian's back there, the little man with the plan. He does opportunity zones and stuff is back there. So really, the REBA is more in the urban areas versus the EDGE is more in the rural areas. But you really got to put them together, and I think we have a great opportunity this year working together to take those two pots of money and really make a difference. As we got other states wanting these companies.
Yeah.
And so this is our deal-making money. We got to be sure we got it together anywhere in the state. Make sure the communities are ready, the workforce is ready, and that we don't fall short when we go up against North Carolina and Texas and some other folks. So,
thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Chairman Davis has a question here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Office of Research, just on your handout that you just gave out, I'm curious on the report of the local government finances. Is this the same report or financial document that they're reporting with the Department of Audits, or?
Which one, Mr. Chairman?
The report of local government finances.
It's your handout, Mike.
Yes, okay, on 3681A. Yes, this is, it's different. That's they report to us, and that's available so that sometimes different local governments can look at, what other governments are doing, so they can compare their costs of how they're providing services. Mr. Chairman, I don't know that it's been used the way it probably could be used. I think there could be more use of it to help different governments look at what Jackson County is doing versus Walton County and where efficiencies might be, where you have a little cross-pollination. But I believe that was the intent of the legislature, is to have that to where, you could look at how different county governments are doing.
So you take this report and you post it on an online service that all of them can go on. And I guess my point is, what's different from this report from the financial disclosures that are required by law to the Department of Audits for every local?
It's basically more detailed. It's more detailed than an audit. It gets down to the level of every revenue source, every expenditure area. That does allow for that comparison. So we can even do comparisons from like-sized counties or cities to other like-sized counties or cities. Universities, ACCG, GMA use this information quite a bit. We'll also do customized reports. If a local government wants to get some kind of analysis about how they compare to others, we do that as well.
So this is more like a forensic type audit than a...
Well, it's really more, we ask for audited information, but when we review this information, we're not auditing it. We're simply taking what they've reported to us and then analyze it, as opposed to an actual audit.
Can I get the website?
Sure. What I'll do is I'll get the exact page that has all those reports on it and get it sent to you.
Because also through the Department of Audits, they put out a list of budget compliance, I'm trying to use terminology here, but suggestions on where they can come in compliance with what we appropriate out of this committee and enhance their use of their dollars down there. So there's a couple of documents in addition to the audit that they do. They have the compliance report out of the Department of Audits, and I'm wondering if this is more detailed, if we could use this rather than using the budget compliance report.
it's possible. I'll be glad to get you those reports.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I kind of looked at this. I said, this is the transparency in local government. And the great thing about it is that ACCG and GMA, DCA, the legislature, we're all engaged in putting this together. So it's a good faith effort to be transparent and to really do a little cross-pollination, I think, at times, to look at what other, governments are doing across the state.
Thank you.
Tom Gale from GMA, do y'all use this? Do y'all use this report?
Yes, sir. We use a number of different reports, but we often have questions that come up. A city wants to hire somebody, and they want to know what a similar sized city pays a certain position. But I am interested in hearing sort of the duplicative audits reports versus DCA reports. But we're always in favor of trying to reduce payroll, so we can use the
Okay.
to look at that would be helpful.
I thought you were going to say no, but I'm glad you said yes.
Hey, make a note that I'm trying to help you out there, okay?
Okay.
I'll follow up and find out how extensively we can look at it.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner, I think that's all the questions. Thank you for being here. And Janine, you're next. So you're at, let me get you on. Okay, you're on.
Can you hear me? Am I connected? Great, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Subcommittee. Want to start out just briefly talking about the budget, the line items that you see in the FY11, and then about our service, the express service, and some of the things that we see going forward. What you see in the fiscal 11 is two particular things that stand out. One is a $5.7 million line item enhancement, and one is a reduction of $255,000. That reduction is in a 10% reduction on our staff and other expenditures. That's in addition to 26% cut that we're already sustaining for this fiscal year, which we've taken through reductions in force or layoffs, attrition, and shifting some of our employees over to federal funds to fill the gap during these tight times. We've also cut some of our services, cut some of our routes, and increased our fares, and all doing this in the name of austerity. What we did to start out this express service was an infusion of county funds that we thought was going to work for us for about 3 years. This started in 2003. We've been able to extend the life of those dollars for 7 years, and we were able to do that through leveraging federal funds and through some cost efficiencies. And there are some really important things, I think, around this express service that I want to highlight. There was in around the 2003 timeframe is when this kicked off. We serve 12 counties in Metro Atlanta, all the way from Canton and Cumming in the north part of the town to Hampton and McDonough in the south part of the region, and from Snellville to Douglasville. And what we provide are commute services, commute options for folks who live in suburban Metro Atlanta and have their access to jobs in downtown, midtown area. And our customers are our employees at Georgia Pacific, SunTrust, Georgia Power, and the like. And that's part of why I like the fact that transportation is in the Economic Development Subcommittee of Appropriations, because we do see them as very tightly linked, because the services we do provide around giving folks access to jobs, stress-free commute for an affordable price. So what we do is we provide this service. We got about 2 million boardings per year, folks who rely on the service, and those are some folks who you may know. Representative Knight's wife Marie, who works at the Merchandise Mart, she rides Express. Commissioner Vance Smith's assistant. We have a plethora of others around state government, but others in private sector who rely on our service every day to get to work. What we do, the way we provide the service actually is through private company. It's a public-private partnership for transit. About 2/3, or a little more than 2/3 of our workforce is outsourced to the private sector. And we find, though, that we're still able to have very high customer satisfaction with that. 93% and above of our customers like it, love our service, and are very glad it's in place. We not only do we connect with our customers twice a day on their route in and their route home, but we once a year do a customer satisfaction survey to make sure that we're meeting their needs. This was the first regional transit in Metro Atlanta that serves these major counties, and what we are seeking in this particular budget is a one-time funding. You'll notice it's in the fiscal 11, of course, not in the base budget. And what we are looking toward is for the region, the Atlanta region, through the sales tax referenda, to pick up Express, pick up the tab for Express, both to have it on the initial list that the Director of Planning puts together, that the local elected officials will see the value of it for their citizens, and that the voters at the ballot box will say yes to the regional sales tax and take up the funding for Express in the ongoing future years. We've seen increases in our demand for our service during the $4 a gallon gas situation that we saw in 2008. We're anticipating that potentially happening again, and we're preparing for that. But with this infusion of funds, this 5.8, what we're doing to make that a value for the state, first of all, is we're giving up our 2010 bonds, and that's a tune of about $1.8 million annual debt service, which equates to about $30 million savings over the next 19 years for the state. And so that $1.8 million debt service is in fiscal 12, so you don't see it on the tracking document for fiscal 11. And that 1.8 is about 1/3 of the dollars that we'll need to bridge us through the next fiscal year. That's my presentation. Any questions?
Chairman Hill?
Well, I think that pretty much answers the detail on 5.7.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. And the amount of the appropriation infusion is 5.7. Is that what you said?
No, it's 5.7.
And that's to keep you operating not only till June the 30th, but the following year as well.
That's correct, Chairman. Yes, through fiscal
Why don't you
12.
bring them up to date on the counties that you go through and counties that are struggling to pay, and bring them up to date on that, Janine, if you don't mind.
Certainly. Our distribution of riders, their home county is
Hold that mic closer to your, there you go.
Is that better? Thank you. Our distribution of riders, their home county throughout the region is 12 counties that provide the initial cash infusion, but we have a handful of others whose citizens use the service. They'll drive in from counties like Bartow, Barrow, Carroll County, Hall County, Newton, Spalding, and Fayette, and Walton. So there are riders that will drive in from their home county, pick up the closest park and ride lot, and take the service in. It's also different than a regular transit bus that you might see going around in downtown Atlanta. It's a coach service. It's got very plush seats. It provides those creature comforts that our customers love, because their journey from their home is average 24 miles. We started out the service. The counties gave us a little bit of money. The reason we were able to get those little bit of dollars from them to start it out was because the state gave an investment of road projects. So it was a little bit of a trade that occurred, and from that point, that was again the first regional transit we've had in Metro Atlanta. It's been very scalable. We've cut back service where the buses aren't full. We've been able to provide more where we needed to, where the demand is high, such as in Henry County is one of our highest ridership is from Henry County, and over this time, the value has been proven. I think that we've seen a lot of support from local governments. We feel confident that we'll be able to get on the regional sales tax referendum list.
For those of us that's not in that 12-county region,
Yes, sir.
how is it promoted or how is it advertised? Is it on your web page or what?
Yes, good question. That is one of the ways is through a web page. We also interact with some of our partners, such as the Clean Air Campaign, the Atlanta Regional Commission, when folks are looking for alternate ways to get in, ways to commute into downtown, midtown, perimeter. And also, our park and ride lots do have a visible, visible profile in the suburban counties. Folks will see the express buses coming and going, and they'll see the signs in our park and ride lots. And we interact also with our customers through Twitter, actually. We communicate with them about service changes and the like through that.
I got another question here from Chairman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The program's been up and running now for 5 or 6 years, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we kicked off in 2003, 2004.
How are the buses doing, and what is the age turnaround on the buses? I mean, do we have an influx of capital outlay that's coming that's right around the corner? What's the life expectancy on them?
That's a good question. We have about 100 buses that are in operation now throughout the region. And we didn't start all 100 buses at the same time. We've kind of ramped up over time. Jim, do you know the useful life?
The coaches, by federal standard, have a 12-year useful life, but I think we can get between 15 and 18 years from the coaches. The first coaches on a 12-year cycle would be replaced about 6 years from now. Again, I'm expecting we can stretch that cycle a little bit farther. Excellent.
And follow up, Mr. Chairman. The other question I had is with this one-time infusion of cash to get us through the FY12 year. Right. What happens if the regional tax doesn't pass? What are we going to be looking at FY13? Are we going to, this one time is going to be a yearly?
That's a very good question. If we are at a position in Metro Atlanta where the sales tax in front of the voters was not a project list that they were interested in and they vote it down, we will have a much bigger, broader discussion that we're going to need to have at the local, regional, and state level regarding transportation in general. And transit, but particularly express, will be one of those big policy questions and a dialogue we'll have to have about, do we continue it? And if so, how much? What is at stake, we do know ultimately, is because the federal government has given us around $100 million over the years to initiate the service, we will ultimately have to, if the service shuts down, we ultimately have to pay that back. And we'd be able to liquidate, of course, the rolling stock, as they call it, the buses, as well as the land and the property around that. But that we don't believe would come close to what we would have to pay back to the federal government.
The original plan when we set up the Greta,
yeah.
5 or 6 years ago,
yeah.
was that there was an initial infusion of cash by the locals in a conjunction.
Right.
What was the plan when the CMAQ money ran out to begin with? Because there was no such thing as a regional sales tax at that time. What was the plan? There was additional investment from the locals. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
And where is that plan at? Has there been any more discussion with that to help
Absolutely.
Share the burden there?
Absolutely. Like I said, the response that we've gotten since I started Greta about 6 months ago has been very, very positive from the county governments. They're very concerned about this program continuing. As I'm sure you all have heard, the same thing we heard is around the crunch that they've had in their local budgets. That said, from this point forward, the question does go back to the county governments, back to their jurisdiction to say, this is providing service, a benefit actually to your citizens, to provide them to jobs. Is this something you're willing to come to the table to pay for? If not, we will have to look at cutting service, either reducing it or eliminating it altogether. That question will be put back to the local governments in the course of the next 6 to 9 months.
Thank you.
That's all for Greta.
Thank you, Chairman.
Soil Waters here. I was told there was a death and y'all wouldn't be here, but I'm sorry I passed up, I could have gotten you back to Athens quicker, I guess. So let me get you on here. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dave Eichenberg. I'm the Deputy Director for the Georgia Soil and Water Conservation. Director Dyke has had a death in the family, and he's actually at the funeral in Augusta right now, so he does apologize for his absence. I was told to come here and bring Nikki Strain with me too. The two of us are trying to make up for one Brent Dyke, so that's going to be kind of tough. But I'd like to go through the tracking sheet real briefly. I think Director Dykes did this last week, but we actually have several reductions. One for a vacant irrigation specialist. Then we're going to bring in some federal grants to offset some state dollars for this fiscal year. And then we are canceling some contracts with some research and analytic work for the water supply reservoirs. That is the nutshell of our tracking sheet. We are actually on the governor's sheet as 32 employees. We have 8 vacancies currently for a total of 40. I would entertain any questions in the essence of time.
Okay. Representative Hanner.
One quick question, please. To reduce contract funds for water-related studies, what does that encounter?
Yes, Representative Hanner. What that details is we've helped out some of the planning of the reservoirs for human consumption water in the drought situation. This is the reduction of that contract in the current fiscal year. Next year we have zeroed that amount out. We will not have any money whatsoever to forward that contract.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions? Sorry I held y'all up. I didn't.
Actually, I got to go down to Representative Hanner's area, so it's no problem at all. Traffic's not a problem that direction.
I don't have any traffic down there?
No. Not in Parrott.
Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Okay. Thank you for being here. We will be meeting again Monday. I didn't tell the rest of the crowd that left, but there will be a final vote out of the subcommittee Monday, is my understanding. So just give you a heads up. Thank everybody for being here, and this concludes the meeting.